So, I want to go over the final fight between Optimus and Megatron in my story. I came up with most of this like 2 days ago, um, and like all of this is subject to change as normal. I don't have everything planned out. There's definitely gaps here and there. I also want to say that in universe this would be a lot longer than I am suggesting it would be. Um, I can imagine if this was a TV show, I could see this being a season-long fight. Like the previous season ends with the fight being set up, and then like this season ends when the fight ends, or a few episodes before, or something like that. So whilst this might only take 10, 15 minutes to explain, it would be, a few 100 minutes as like a story. So first of all, it starts with the Decepticons building a space bridge. And the Autobots have arrived, Optimus in his super suit, or super mode. A brief explanation of this, in case you don't know. This is basically a finalized version of Optimus's augments, which they basically allow him to use Dark Energon without it affecting his psyche. This is his Dark Energon super mode that affects him in a similar way to the Black Suit Spider-Man story. Makes him a bit more aggressive. Now the reason this happens is because the Matrix has the ability to absorb Dark Energon. Now when it was at the hilt of the Star Saber, this was fine. It could absorb Dark Energon and then let it out in massive attacks without any problem. But now it's in the chest of Optimus. When it wants to expel that energy, it expels it through his body and it messes with his head. So that's why he has the augments, and this is basically a finalized version of the augments, inspired by Cybertron Optimus. These wheels probably wouldn't actually be here, because I don't think this would actually be his trailer. I think it would be something inside of his trailer, so it probably wouldn't have the wheels. Now Optimus and Megatron get into a bit of a fight, obviously. Megatron has drove a bit into a corner, which is when he needs to pull out his trump card, his antimatter super form. Now he can only use this for a very few amount of seconds, or it basically completely destroys his body. So he waits till the very last second to use this, to like destroy some stuff, maybe destroy some rock, get Optimus out of his way, basically to get himself in a more safe environment. Of course, Megatron has to go back to this form, which is when Sideways basically asks him, what's up with that, why don't you use that more often? Megatron says, despite the Dark Energon in his system expanding his capacity to use that form, it's still a heavy drain on his body. Sideways says, we basically have an infinite source of Dark Energon in the Matrix of Chaos inside of Nemesis Prime's chest. Megatron then goes, good idea, and rams his fist into Nemesis Prime's chest, pulling out the Matrix of Chaos and attaching it to his chest, which allows him to use this form permanently as long as he has it in his chest. Him and Optimus get into a fight, obviously, again, and he rips Optimus's arm off. It's around this point that Leo Breaker joins the fight. Complete and utter transparency. I have no idea what else I'm doing with Leo Breaker. I know I want him to be in this fight, and that's basically it. I probably want to introduce him a few arcs earlier. How he gets to Earth, how he becomes part of the main team, how he gets his beast mode, all of that, I don't really know. What really happens to him after this, I'm not quite sure either. All I know is that I want him in this fight, and I can figure out the rest later. Him and Optimus combine to the Savage Claw mode, and, him and Megatron then, fight a lot. They're blowing punches back and forth until Optimus, half for revenge and half because it's a dangerous weapon, rips Megatron's arm off. And then shortly after, they grab the Matrix of Chaos on Megatron's chest and rip it off, which of course means that he has to go back to his regular form. But before that happens, Megatron blasts them with a wave of antimatter, and they go flying back and they decombine. Now, Leo Breaker is on his own with the Matrix of Chaos, and it corrupts him into Nemesis Breaker. There's some fighting and whatnot, but eventually Nemesis Breaker and Megatron combine, And now Megatron is able to siphon the power of the Matrix of Chaos from Leo Breaker to go back into his antimatter form. Not as powerful as before though, since he's not getting the power directly. Of course, there's more fighting. Optimus would lose his super mode. I imagine that other characters would probably hop into the fight. But at some point, Optimus is sort of away from the fight, and Wheeljack or some other character is able to graft Megatron's arm to Optimus's body in a reference to Skybound. I probably wouldn't have Optimus do this pose or say the line, because I think that's maybe going a little bit too far. I think just having the arm is cool as a reference. At this point, Optimus reveals that he's been extracting some Dark Energon from Megatron, and he goes into his Dark Energon super mode and blasts a massive shot with the fusion cannon at Megatron, which splits Megatron and Nemesis Breaker. Megatron, of course, goes back to his default form, and some Decepticons take him back to the space bridge, because Starscream basically declares retreat. A few of the injured guys go into the space bridge, including Megatron, and Starscream says to Shockwave to activate the space bridge, but inspired by something that happened earlier in the fight, separate to the Optimus and Megatron fight, Starscream shoots the space bridge, causing a massive transwarp explosion, but Sideways influences it a little bit and is able to send Megatron and the other injured to Unicron, where they get turned into his heralds. A few other little bits that happen after this. Optimus doesn't lose the arm. He doesn't lose Megatron's arm, but a little bit later he combines into Optimus Maximus, and the fusion cannon is used as a shoulder cannon for Optimus Maximus. And then in Optimus's and Galvatron's final fight, Galvatron rips off the arm, saying like, "Give that back," or something along those lines, and then Optimus dies a little bit later on. Like, basically right after that fight, Optimus dies. Not to be revived until a little bit later on. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over for this final fight. I've wanted to introduce Leo Breaker for a while, and I've always found the idea of Nemesis Breaker quite cool, and I think it's actually really interesting that I was able to implement them both as the same character. I also do quite like Cybertron Optimus's super mode. It's like one of the more popular super modes out there, so I think it was quite interesting that I was able to get it. Yeah, and I like the way that I've done this. I think that's it.